I'm going to tell you today a personal story. It's just about a story of my own personal story and then the story of our company as we got forward. This is where I grew up. This house is the house that I lived in when I was small. This is my brother standing in the front yard. He's about 12 years older than I am. He's about 2 to 3, maybe 4 years old in this picture. There was no date on it, so I don't know exactly. You see that old house in the background there? That's what they call a tar paper shack. You can see the sides of it are made out of tar paper. It's literally just boards nailed together and tar paper over top of it to keep the wind from blowing in. Electrical wires on the inside just run over the surface of the walls. Truly, the house still stands today and is much nicer than it looks there. You'll see in this next picture that a few years later my family had actually put wood siding on it. Still has the tar paper underneath, but we've improved, and now we have grass in the yard. And that's me sitting there at about 16 months old feeding the chickens, which is something I became very good at over the years and actually won a number of county championships for the chickens that I raised as a young teenager. And I always did enjoy working with the animals around the house there and working with my dad on those things. Here's our Bible school or maybe Easter Sunday class. That's me, number 88 there, and once again I'm holding my pet rabbit. I don't ever remember being allowed to take that rabbit to church, but there's clearly proof there that I did, and must not have been too afraid because I'm showing off it in the picture there. This old church, by the way, is very famous now. If you've ever watched the series Justified on Fox TV, this church is in the introductory trailer for that. It has a big sign on the side with the 10 Commandments on it if you want to go back and see that. I went from that humble beginnings on to go off to college and then on to go to work for a company in Huntsville, Alabama called Nichols Research, and this is Nichols Research buildings. I worked in these buildings and a couple other buildings that are next door to these that were older buildings, but I did have an office in the top right corner there later in my career. A very successful career there, made it all the way up to president of an operating segment, moved around the country 5 times, and was told that I was on the list to be a candidate for the CEO or president, but this company missed quarterly earnings, and then a few months later they were sold. The new company talked about how much they wanted the new management and how important it was and how important I was to the future. But just a few months after that conversation, I found myself standing on the corner with a severance check and a payment for the stock that I owned, wondering what do I do next. I didn't have a clue. And, you know, unlike the song, the Eagles song, there was in Winslow, Arizona, I was standing on the corner in Falls Church, Virginia, but there was no girl in the flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me. I was just standing there totally lost about where do I go from here. So where did I go from here? I bounced around to a few jobs and was part of a startup. A startup failed or was failing when I left, and then in 2002, Don Holder, who was also a former VP at Nichols, and I sat down and scratched out over breakfast the beginnings of a new company that would be Torch Technologies. We committed from that very beginning to be employee-owned from the outset. Our commitment that we scratched down on those napkins, and I wish I still had that napkin, but I don't, is written right here. These words are still used when we brief our employees. And you see down there at the bottom, what became probably one of the more important, or if not the most important one, is that we would encourage and enable employee ownership. That became at the very core of our business. We are 100% employee owned, and we all work together. It's just become ingrained in the culture of the company. The benefits of being employee owned, being 100% employee owned, are that our employees are motivated to work together. They're motivated to help the company succeed, and it's comforting for them that, you know, they don't look about and wonder if the company's about to sell. Like back in 1999 when I found myself standing on the corner, you know, we did not want that to happen again. Basically at that time frame, Don and I both were at a place where we'd been able to control our own destiny, make commitments to employees, and then that was all snapped away when the change came, and it was all gone. We didn't want to do that again. That's why we chose to be employee-owned, so we'd have control over our own destiny. How successful has that been? Our team that works together has hundreds of commendation letters from customers. A typical bid rate in our industry is about 35% win rate. If you're really good, it could be up to 50%. We've had years up around 80%, so something is working correct. Our employee turnover is also usually less than half the industry average. So, when everybody has a stake in the outcome, as the book by Jake Stack says, fortunately he got there and patented that first, because I was saying it before I ever found that book, but that book became a key staple of how we do business here, and it is part of our leadership training here still to this day, and is the highest rated book in our library. Torch, at the end of this past year, just to give you a feeling, we started with 2 employees back in 2002. We finished 19 with over 1,000 employees. We're over 1,100 now. We finished over $500 million in revenue, and continuing to grow this year with the pandemic. It's a little bit more challenging, but I think we will finish this year up. As you can see, we have locations all over the world now. Of course, the largest locations in Huntsville, Alabama, where I am today. Some of the awards we've won, one that I'm most proud of is we were in the original list of Forbes 25 Best Small Companies. And, that award comes from the foundation of the Small Giants community. The only challenge there is we forgot to be small as we've continued to grow and are now over 1,000 people. But we still adhere to all the principles that are key to that community. We treat our employees well, we treat the community well, we just try to be a good steward of all things, including doing our customers the best service that we possibly can. Number 2 in the nation in terms of best places to work. This past year, unfortunately, we won't get a shot at number 1 because of our growth. We are now in the large business category, so we'll have to win number 1 in the large business category. Washington top 100 technology contracts, government technology contracts. We're number 59 this year. We're slowly growing up the list. And fortunately, we grow up the list, but we also have companies that are up above us that merge together and help us go up the list as well. So any way we can get it, we'll be fine. Another thing that I'm really proud of is the Inc. magazine has each year a competition for the 5,000 fastest growing companies in America. We've been on that list now 14 years in a row. Not just 14 years, but we've been on it every year since we were eligible, and that's 14 consecutive years. I think if our data is correct, there's less than 10 companies that have achieved that, and it may be less than that when we see this next list. Bloomberg top 200, we're numbered 122. That's for all federal contracts, not just for the contracts that are on the other list. So 122 in terms of the rankings of the top government contractors there. The success of the company is something that I'm really, really proud of. But the thing that I'm most proud of is the difference that we've been able to make in our community. This started back in 2004 when one of our employees, our employees came together and formed an organization called Torch Helps. And the idea behind Torch Helps is that everyone would take a little bit out of their payroll, we'd put it in a pot, and then we'd do things, we'd give back to the community to try to make the community a better place to live. Well, just as we were kicking off Torch Helps, one of our employees saw a report on Crime Stoppers that a local Boy Scout troop had their trailer stolen, and all their camping supplies in that trailer were stolen as well. And so the idea came up that would be a good first project for us, is to go replace that trailer and make this thing right for the Boy Scouts. And so we started out on that mission, realized we didn't have enough money to replace the trailer and the camping supplies. So we found another company here, Miltech, in town, and asked them to participate. They bought the camping supplies and we bought the trailer. And we had these scouts come to our facility thinking they were on a service mission and they were going to do crowd control. So we're a company of about 100 people at the time. We're having our open house. We've just moved into a new facility, big, huge parking lot, a huge building, and we're practically the only tenant in it at this point, so there was not going to be a problem with crowd control. But we had these employees here to help, or these scouts here to help if there was. So one of our senior managers took the scouts off to talk to them about how we were going to do crowd control, while another manager went and got the trailer and the camping supplies and pulled it up outside where the entry to the building would be. And this is a little bit after our open house has started. They pull that trailer up front, and then we take the scouts down, and he's taking them out to position them for the crowd control. And the scouts see this nice new trailer, and they're looking. And then he walks up to the trailer, and he says, "This is our gift to you," and opens up the doors and shows us camping supplies. And as you looked around, the parents and the children are asking, "Why would you do this?" The children, "Why you do this?" There's parents that are crying. There's me over there almost crying, and employees that have tears in their eyes. And the scouts are trying to figure out, why would someone do this for us? And it was probably one of the best moments that we've ever had. It set the course that we were going to be an impact of change in our community. Well, this story don't end there. You have to go on and fast forward a little bit. A few months later, we were invited by the Better Business Bureau to attend a luncheon, and we bought a table there and went to attend the luncheon. And we learned about the Torch Awards there. And we had been nominated for a Torch Award. And that Torch Award says that you're, giving back to the community, et cetera, et cetera. We had not won an award prior to this. And so we're sitting there at the table, and they're listing the third place winner, the second place winner. And I thought, well, I thought we might have had a shot at one of those by them inviting us. And then they're reading this. They had an essay competition that the scouts had to write an essay, and the winning essays would get us a $1,000 college scholarship. And so they are reading from one of those essays. The speaker says, "I'm going to read this story about that this young man wrote, the winning essay." And then as he starts to read, I realize that he's reading about Torch. He's talking about what we had done for them and what he could see from this in the community. It was a powerful moment. I had to ask Don to go accept the award because I couldn't speak. Even now, 15 years later, it still gets me to hear those words that child wrote. It's incredible. But the story doesn't end there. We won the Torch Award, but it doesn't end there. And that came with lots of advertising, lots of publicity, way more than we paid for the trailer in value, and created a name for us in the community. But it doesn't end there. Hurricane Katrina happened just a few months later. And these scouts, they look around and say, "We're going to pay it forward." They load that trailer up and they take it down to the coast, and they find a Boy Scout troop that lost everything in Katrina. They tell us they gave them their camping supplies. They kept the trailer. They gave them the camping supplies and said they would raise their own money through bake sales and stuff to replace their camping supplies, but they wanted to pay it forward and learn from what we did to do something for someone else. This forever etched the fact that we would be a change agent for the community. The letter they sent back to us was so powerful, and all the employees just were so moved by it that the giving into our giving fund was increased, and what we were able to do became even more and more as we went forward, and is incredible today. Now, some Some 15 years later, I'm driving to work and I'm listening to the radio, and on the radio news, they're talking about a band trailer was stolen from a local high school. And I hit the dial button on the phone and I speak a name into the speaker, and it calls. And I asked one of the key people that was involved in putting together this thing for the Boy Scouts. I said, how would you like to do this again? And so here we go again. So we bought this trailer. Fortunately, there weren't band instruments in the trailer when it was stolen, or this could have gotten really expensive. But we bought this trailer, and here you go. This is a picture of the trailer. They labeled it up and put their own graphics on it. They made us a nice big card saying thank you, and they all signed it. Then they show up in our parking lot with all their instruments and give us a private concert. That's us, some of us standing out there with them in the concert. And of course, the local news channel was here to record all that. And once again, we get more publicity than we could ever imagine. But it was incredible. A young band director in his first year. The kids, again, parents were crying, kids were crying. Just couldn't figure out why you would do this. Turns out this high school, I didn't know it at the time, was pretty close to a new house that I was building. And so there's a Chick-fil-A there close, and a few months later I'm in Chick-fil-A, and here come some of these students. You know, I'm the biggest hero that they've ever seen. They're coming up and just telling me how appreciative they are for the trailer, and excited, and the parents are excited. You just don't know what a little thing can do in the community and how powerful it can be. You know, this is a story. We've given many grants throughout the years. I think a little over $1 million worth, if I'm not mistaken now. And of course, the company gives in parallel to that. And it's just incredible, the feedback we get from the community. It has branded our company. We are someone that the community loves and respects. If there is a disaster or a crisis, we're one that they come looking to for help. It's something that we're very proud of to be a part of. This, I think, is at the key of our culture. We own the company. Our employees own the company. They perform above standards, but as owners of the company, the success that we've had makes them want to give back to the community. It's also one of the best recruiting tools. We get people writing on their application, why do you want to come to work here? And they say, it's because we saw what Torch does in the community and we want to be a part of it. This story has not ended, and hopefully it'll go on long after I'm gone, because we've laid a good foundation. On the left here is the old company that I worked for. On the right is those same buildings after we built the conference center right out in front of them. We totally demolished the inside of those buildings and totally redid them, joined them together with this conference center, and today we own the buildings where I worked as a young man. I'm proud of this story. It has not ended. We continue to go, and it will continue to go long after I'm gone, as I said. So, one thing I'll leave you with, sanitize, stay 6 feet apart, and put that mask on, because I want to see you in person next year. Thank you.